Welcome to the Jezebel Spirit Podcast, where women are unbroken, unbothered, and unrestrained. I'm your host, Therese. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe. And if you haven't already, go to the link in the description to download the Manosphere Decoder. You won't regret it. Trust me. This episode is supported by Unity Harbor. Unity Harbor is a 501c3 nonprofit reimagining home and stability through supportive housing communities in Colorado. To support their work, visit unityharbor.org/donate. This was not my original plan for this episode. I had intended to talk about something else for episode 4, but then Ozzy Osbourne died. And my good friend Melanie Hamlet talked about it. Big mistake. First things first. I'm thinking of selling merch, and I want to know if any of you are interested in buying this shirt. Let me show you. It has all the hashtags on it, the name of the podcast, and then my website below. I've just been playing around with some merch prototypes, and this is my favorite one so far. And everybody I've shown this shirt to, they would totally buy it. So let me know in the comments if you're among those who would buy it. In her video, she mentioned that we should be careful not to see Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne as a love story, as relationship goals, because he literally tried to kill her. But the women in her comments, y'all, they were defending Ozzy. Oh, that's true love. You know, you have to accept a man's flaws in order to really love him. Since when are domestic violence and attempted murder personality flaws? And I really started thinking about these kinds of love stories after watching a video from one of my favorite people on TikTok, Sedona Violet.
The love interest is always a vampire because that's the only monster that still leaves you looking pretty after it's done eating you. It's the same reason we constantly compare women's bodies to food, because we as a society believe that women are meant to be consumed by men. And so in a world like that, it's real easy to romanticize and even fetishize survival, because what could be hotter? Like, legitimately, what could be hotter than a monster visibly restraining itself from massacring your entire graduating class, all because you smell especially delicious? And when the ultimate predator makes an exception just for you, well, it must mean that it's love. And to reward his good behavior, you're gonna let him eat you anyway. Because of course you fucking are. Because the high of surviving makes it feel like love. And in a world where everyone says that you are meant to be prey, it's really kind of nice when the predator asks first, you know?
I was never really into Twilight. I thought those movies were pretty lame. First, the author of the books is a Mormon woman. Case closed. Major red flag. But for me, you know, the main issue was that Twilight broke the one rule of vampire lore that remains constant throughout the genre. And that is, vampires can't go out during the day. Just, they can't. They shouldn't be able to. I mean, they have literally every other power. Plus, there was the whole lusting after an underage girl thing, which I thought was creepy. I mean, seriously, that guy, I don't even need to remember his name, but he used to watch her sleep. Bella Kristen Stewart, he used to watch her sleep, and she was like 16. Ugh. So then I got to thinking about bad boys. Women supposedly love bad boys, right? But at his core, what is a bad boy, really? A bad boy is a monster. A bad boy is a monster who is going to destroy us right after he gives us the best orgasm of our lives. In this episode, we're going to unpack our cultural obsession with loving a monster and the feminist power of walking away from them. So I thought we should get into this and ask the question, why do women love monsters? If women are socialized to see themselves as prey and men as predators, if you are going to deal with men at all, I suppose something in our subconscious tells us that there's no truly safe option. But the best option becomes the predator that only hurts others. And you can convince yourself that he won't hurt you. The monster that you choose and who chooses you back and spares you. It's a question that pops up in stories of every generation, whether it's vampire boyfriends, dark anti-heroes, or those tortured villains with the tragic backstories. Something about the dangerous man somehow pulls women in. The movie Lost Boys is a great example of this. Here's Melanie Hamlet explaining.
I just realized today that this was my favorite pick-me in all the vampire love stories, whatever. Because this is like the cool girl pick-me. So I thought I didn't fall for it, but I wanted to be her so bad. The one who's hanging out with all the vampires and is, maybe even looking after a little baby vampire, half vampire, but never fully gets harmed by them or goes full bad, but gets to just hang out with all dudes who are doing terrible things all the time and be safe. Because even if you are not forking one of the vampires, you get to hang out with them. I saw this morning and I was like, oh my God. Like between her and Therese Lee talking about this, I finally get it. Like the dots are connected that the bad boy, and I knew this, but I couldn't put into it. Rather than just coming after you and preying on you, you are agreeing to it. You're consenting to this. How empowering. Like vampire stuff is so appealing to us because it's this idea that, because we are all like sleeping with men is literally sleeping with like the predator. All right. We are prey. They're the predator. But the thing about vampire movies, what she pointed out is that like, what is the ideal scenario where we're the ultimate, like pick me. The ultimate goal is to be the special one who he doesn't want to devour. Like he could, he literally like goes after you, but you're the one that he will not touch. He will not harm. I mean, he kind of will. You're special. And this is like, maybe the height of that, of like, it's okay. You'll find one that you'll be the exception. And then you have one. You have one patriarch. You can find one of these men who just literally would harm everyone else. But you have one. What a noble cause. Other than the literal mother, she is the only woman in this whole movie. And she's so cool and she's so pretty. And then she gets the guy in the end. And like, they never really hurt her. You could possibly never date men and still be full pick me. And we are all pick me. We're all pick me. We're all on a pick me spectrum. You cannot be in patriarchy and not fall into it on some level, right? Even if you don't date men.
There is a mistaken belief that we long to experience violence at the hands of men. Of course, that's not true. But misogynistic men think that we do. And our obsession with these kinds of stories feeds into that. I think that's why they assume that this is true. Misogynistic men believe that women like to be raped. And because these red pill guys are not very deep thinkers, they think that we're fetishizing violence like they do. Nope. We don't romanticize the violence itself. We romanticize surviving it. Still fucked up, but that bit of nuance is important. That's the seduction, surviving the danger. And sometimes, like in Twilight, agreeing to become a monster yourself is an ending to that story. But these stories aren't all the same. There are distinct differences in these narratives, and the differences are important. What about those stories where the monster doesn't win? The stories where the woman doesn't end up choosing the monster? What about the women who say no? Let's start with the fantasy. In stories like Twilight, Dracula, Vampire Diaries, and True Blood, the central romance hinges on danger. He could kill you. He wants to kill you, but he doesn't. And that's supposed to be the proof that he loves you. It's seductive, especially when women, as Sedona said, are raised to expect violence. If love is just surviving a man's worst instincts, then a predator who chooses to hold back, that becomes the fantasy. A monster with self-control is more desirable than a man who lacks power altogether, because women, supposedly, are attracted to power, whatever its form. Although I don't actually agree with that. Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think it's a mistaken belief that it's power that we're attracted to. I think what we're really attracted to is safety. But things like having more money, being physically strong, these things are linked to safety because you have to have power to ensure your safety. But it's not really about the power, red pill bros. It's about the safety, which explains why there are millions of basic as fuck men who have wives and girlfriends and children. Because usually just not being a threat is enough to satisfy the safety bit. The bar is literally in hell. These monster love stories can also offer women a strange sense of agency. You are the reason that he restrains himself. You are the one woman who makes him soft. But the subtext is still chilling. The fact that your safety depends on successfully managing this monster. And this is completely consistent with patriarchy. Women are taught that it is our responsibility to keep a man, that how they treat us is entirely dependent on our behavior. Oh, your boyfriend hits you? Well, that's because you're not showing him the proper respect. He cheats on you? Oh, that's because you're not having sex with him often enough. He's entitled to sex and you should give it to him whenever he wants it, even if you don't. But when he is our monster, we have this mistaken belief that he will never turn that violence against us. And it made me think about something else too. Is this the reason why we tend to romanticize relationships between female slaves and their masters? I know it's why we never think that the man who cheated with us and left his wife will ever do the same thing to us. Even when intellectually we know that's not true. We all know the rule, right? If he cheats with you, say it with me, he will cheat on you. That's the monster. Monsters are always gonna monster every time. Ladies, just because it arrives with a charming Southern accent or a charming French accent, boys, gay guys, you are not exempt from this shit either. Lestat, that guy is a full-on monster, but he's hot with a sexy French accent. But that doesn't make it the greatest love story of all time. These guys are freaking dangerous. They're insane. But so many women believe that they can tame him. They can tame the monster. Why? Because every fairy tale, every romance novel, every movie plot tells us that. That's why. Our relatives, our friends, advice columnists have told us that for decades. This is why Melanie was harassed in her comments, because she said, very accurately, that Sharon and Ozzy are not #relationship goals. They are not. He tried to kill her, but she tamed the beast, y'all. How do we know that? Because she's still alive. That's how we know. She survived her monster. And that's real love, right, ladies? This isn't love. This isn't romance. It's, I don't know what the fuck it is, a hostage situation. But what happens when the spell breaks? Not every woman chooses to try and tame the beast. Sookie Stackhouse is a great example. In the HBO series True Blood, Sookie Stackhouse spends most of the series in romantic relationships with vampires. However, at the end of the series, she ends up choosing a human partner. She chooses a human partner after being in relationships with 2 vampires, Bill Compton and Eric Northman, and 1 werewolf, Alcide Herveau, which is a great name, by the way. We're going to pause right here for a Joe Manganiello appreciation moment. That choice was wildly controversial, but it did flip the script. Every supernatural man that came into Sookie's life brought nothing but drama, pain, and risking her life. And not just due to the risk of your boyfriend literally drinking your blood, exsanguinating you, taking your life force, right? But with all the baggage these assholes brought with them. I mean, crazy. I mean, I get that without baggage drama, there's no story, but she gets caught up in vampire politics. She's almost killed by 2 vampire monarchs. She gets caught up in some vampire religious war. Her best friend ends up sexually assaulted, fatally shot in the head, then turned into a vampire herself, and finally meets the true death by being shot in the chest with a wooden bullet. I mean, crazy. That's also a play on the Black best friend trope because Tara puts herself in a lot of danger keeping her best friend Sookie safe. So put a pin in that. We might discuss that at a later episode. It took 7 seasons, a dead best friend, almost dying herself many, many times. But eventually, Sookie stops romanticizing pain. I was not a Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan. Something tells me I should be, though. But this show is another good example. I looked up the plot of this show and the character arc of the main character. And as I understand it, Buffy ends up killing her vampire boyfriend Angel at some point in order to save the world. And when her relationship with this other vampire dude, Spike, gets completely crazy, she walks away. Both of these stories offer something radical. The possibility that you don't have to love the danger. You can end it. You can just walk away anytime. So why does this narrative shift matter? It matters because as girls, we are raised to empathize with monsters. We're told that the bad boy has a good heart, that the love of a good woman will turn him into a good man. Through religious indoctrination and in pop culture, women are taught to find redemption in pain. We're sold the story that love is about survival, surviving male violence, not being free from it. But True Blood and Buffy do something revolutionary. They say, you don't have to survive him. You don't have to tame him. You can just leave. That is truly the best option for you. Walk away. You can not choose the monster. At the end of these story arcs, they reject the predator-prey dynamic completely. The characters come to the realization that what they are doing, trying to love this monster, is fucked up and will eventually get them and everybody they love killed. They refuse the framing of danger as desire. And they remind us that true agency isn't about loving the monster. It's about choosing not to. True agency is about choosing yourself. If men are monsters, the most feminist thing we can do is to stop pretending that we can love them into being human. The monster story has been ours for centuries, but we need to rewrite it. Not with fantasies about being spared the violence, but with stories of walking away. So let me ask you this. What is the first story where you saw a woman leave the monster behind and thought, yes, that's me. That's what I would do? Message me, drop a comment, let me know. Tell me about a moment or a story that cracked this bullshit narrative wide open for you. I'm really curious. And if this episode resonated, make sure to subscribe, to follow the podcast on YouTube, Substack, or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, remember, women were never meant to be prey. So the next time you encounter a monster, don't try to tame the savage beast. Walk away. See ya.